my wife was driving down a main road with our daughter and a car the size of a toaster, and a Verizon truck utility guy was talking on this private cell phone, not paying attention, and pulled off of a side street right in front of my wife and my daughter and T-boned them. That changed my entire life. I got a phone call from principal of my son's school that my son had been beaten pretty bad by his stepfather. I started depositing a check, and then one day I was like, oh my God, I can pay rent. Woo! Yeah.
I grew up with an alcoholic father that went to AA, and I remember that was kind of the thought process, is like one day at a time. And if you can make it through that one day, we all know that the sun's going to rise the next day. All these months you've been pushing this snowball up the hill, right? And you're like pushing it, and it's like so difficult. Now you're at the top of the hill, and like the descend.
This might sound crazy, but I feel like we are the vision of America.
Welcome to Foam to Fortune, the ultimate podcast for spray foam insulation industry. Whether you're a contractor aiming to take your business to the next level, or a vendor bringing innovation to the market, this is the place where success stories are shared, insider tips are uncovered, and the industry secrets are revealed. Join us as we dive into the journeys of the spray foam pros who turn their dreams into thriving empires and discover tools and strategies to build your own path to fortune. Ready to elevate your spray foam game? Let's get started. Foam to Fortune, where innovation meets inspiration.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Foam to Fortune podcast. I'm your host, Spencer Hart. And today we have our special guest, Jacob Benedict. He is from Freedom Foam Co. down in Tallahassee, Florida. What's up, Jacob? Welcome to the show.
What's going on, guys? Thank you for having me.
Of course, man. Over the last a few days, you and I have gotten to know each other quite well. And one thing that really stood out to me was your journey prior to becoming a foamie. 14 months of only owning a foam company, but there's been a fuck ton of challenges leading up to this. So let's set the stage. Let everybody know a little bit about yourself, your history, kind of what has happened leading up to this, and let them know like who Jacob is.
Okay. So I'm a 34-year-old man, father of 5 children, beautiful, lovely children. Been self-employed now for myself about 7 years in total. Initially come from law enforcement, serving our community, and as I started having kids, I could no longer afford to live. This is I was like, okay. Yep. I met my beautiful wife. I was still working, and we unfortunately got to a spot one day when a friend of ours didn't, pay their rent, and I had to go into self-employment. So I just jumped into the world a little bit, doing simple things that I knew how to do. And a few months into that, I was arrested for an estimate that I went to for a drywall patch, and it happened to be a sting through the sheriff's office. And I learned very quickly that licensure is very, very important. And over the course of probably a 4-month span, I went from misdemeanor charges to felony charges because I did not have workman's comp correct. I didn't have my exemptions. They were expired.
Florida's no joke, bro.
Yeah. So I started getting into the process of taking care of my legal stuff. I had never been in trouble before in my life, so I was able to do something called pretrial intervention. And during this time, it was summertime, and when you look to do community service to make up for your crime or so on, students get preference. Okay. So I couldn't find anywhere to do community service, and I ended up serving it at the sheriff's office, legally contracting for the sheriffs.
That is absolutely one of the funniest stories. It's like I did a crime. Mm-hmm. Now I'm going to come and I'm going to use my skills to pay back by doing it for the sheriffs.
Yeah,
great, man.
Yeah. So I took care of my legalities and I got my business license back. And 3 months later, my wife got hit by a Verizon truck, her, my little girl.
It's
And
like when you say they got hit by a truck, Jacob, are we talking like they were pedestrians, they were walking on the street?
nope, my wife was driving down a main road with our daughter and a car the size of a toaster, and a Verizon truck utility guy was talking on this private cell phone, not paying attention, and pulled off of a side street right in front of my wife and my daughter and T-boned them. And that changed my entire life. If I cry, I apologize, but
no, I get it, man. As you and I briefly talked, I'll let you gather yourself. My wife, back in 2020, she became permanently disabled from long COVID. She got COVID, was 80% bedridden for the first year, and now is permanently disabled and has cognitive and lung issues from it. And the place that I had to go and the man that I had to become with those challenges is exactly, I mean, I know there's not a whole lot of people that can say I know exactly the position that you're in and what you felt with the amount of stress. That I remember I was talking to my therapist. It was in June of 2020, and I said, dude, I feel like I'm drowning. That's the only way I could explain the amount of stress that I didn't know what to do except to continue to keep going. But I was so like in such a negative mindset place that I had to just keep pushing. So I understand the emotion that's tied to it, man, especially when it's somebody that you love and you care for, and it's your wife and mother of your children, and now you have to step up. So I feel you, man. So
you want me to keep going on? Kind of.
Yeah, of course. I'd love to keep hearing about your wife's story.
And by the way, I'm grateful that your wife is making a recovery, and that's a crazy way to hear.
Yeah, thank you.
Feel for you, and you have our prayers, 1,000%. During the same time as COVID, okay, same issue. I actually did not go to jail specifically the day that I was charged because of COVID-19.
Okay.
And a couple other reasons, but when going through this process, my wife in the hospital, it was during COVID-19, so you couldn't have family in.
Yeah, so she's alone. She's alone in the hospital. You guys can't visit her except for basically FaceTime.
Just me.
Okay.
Just me, not our children.
Or
yeah, nothing. She spent 4 months paralyzed from the waist down while the hospital was still trying to force her to do physical therapy. They didn't see that her back was shattered.
Wait.
Yeah.
Dude, our medical system's so broke. I actually just got finished talking to my friend that owns this studio that I record in about how bad our medical system is. So she had a broken back, but they never thought of like x-raying, like when she first came in from this car accident.
Yeah, and I'm no medical professional by any means, but I know that they didn't do a test with something with dye, and that made the world of a difference. And I didn't know that.
Okay.
So I called an attorney the day of the accident, and I said, hey, here's what happened. I need my family to be protected, and they're definitely at fault and whatever. And that attorney got a hold of a spine surgeon that was a friend of his, and they said, let me see her x-rays. And they said, well, you don't have the right x-rays. You need one with contrast. And they took the right x-rays, and they ended up emergency like bay flighting her out of that hospital to another hospital. And they performed reconstructive surgery on her spine. And I don't know why this keeps shutting off. They performed reconstructive surgery on her spine, and they put in a whole cage. And then that was like 4.5 months after, and it was the first time she could walk and use both of her legs. And then we said, okay, there's real recovery here. Like you'll be able to walk again. You'll be able to function and be a mom. And then they kind of went down the damage and told her how you're going to live your life. And basically you're permanently disabled if you don't, whether you like it or not. You'll never lift anything over 5 pounds. You'll never run. You'll never do this. And they told her all these things that she couldn't do.
Yeah.
And I don't think you haven't met my wife yet, but she's like 5'0" and like 95 pounds, and she's the meanest woman I've ever met in my life. She doesn't take no for an answer. So now, while going through all this, we ended up we lost our place to live after the accident because we just couldn't afford to keep up, and we moved to her parents, and we started raising. I had a child from another relationship that here in a moment I'll tell you about. We got custody of during this time, and she had our little girl that was in the car when she got hit, who walked away with no scratches.
Thank God. Thank God.
So
you going with issues with your wife, and then also your daughter would have been a big.
So it was at the hospital that I realized, hey, it's time for me to step up and be a dad. Right now, my wife no longer has a source of income, or my fiance at the time no longer has a source of income. We no longer have a place to live that's ours. That now we got to recuperate and build so we can get into another place. I said, we got these kids to take care of, and now my little girl, who is side by side with mommy going through recovery, now I have to put into daycare at 2 years old.
Okay. And
we put her into preparatory school, which was down the block from us, so her mother could lay in bed and heal and have a break,
Yeah.
And I looked at my wife one day and I said, hey, it's time for us to start our own company. This is the only way we're going to survive, at least where we live at. The chances of me finding a type of income that could provide the life for us to survive and just feed our kids was almost impossible.
Yeah.
And I've got some college behind me, but I'm no scholar, and I only know how to work with my hands. So I said, well, what am I going to do? And I asked all of my loved ones around me, hey, here's the predicament I'm in, and a regular 9 to 5 isn't going to cut it. I can't go back to the state of Florida and go work 1 million hours if I want to. I'm never going to make ends meet. No. And I said, I'm going to start my own business again. They said, you're crazy. You're nuts. It's never going to work. It's never going to happen. Never going to make it. I don't have a choice. So, we set off on a 3-year mission of healing and litigation and back surgeries. I think there was a total of like 15 surgeries after everything was said and done. And after the very last surgery, and my wife looked at me and said, I can function. I'm good. I still need you home here and there, to help with the blunt of the load. Now, mind you, during this 3-year process, my wife and I had 3 more children. Naturally, no C-sections, and she can't have any kind of shots in her back, I think they're called
the epidural. Yeah.
Can't have any of that because her epidural spacing is gone. It's all titanium. So she ended up having 3 more kids, all naturally, all during this COVID.
She is a bad woman, I can tell you that.
Right? And up and walking the same day. I mean, out of bed, just superwoman. And and the fact is to see her go through all of this and to still be strong, and still every single time my kids get up sick, every single time anything, whether she was in pain, not in pain, back swollen, that she just did it every single day. And I said, if I could have that strength, we can do this. We're going to do it. And we did it. We just started one day, and it's like any business. You start putting a bunch of components together, and you get to a position where you say, hey, it's time to actually do it. And as a father of 5 kids, and everybody depending on me, I took
those
that
5
leap
kids
with
are all under the age of 7, right, Jacob?
All 5 kids still currently are under the age of 7. Yes,
dude, that is a zoo, an absolute zoo.
Yeah. So about 2 or 3 months after her last surgery, we filed for our new company, Freedom Foam Co., and we started building it. And me specifically, I went through legal litigation. We got a small payout that we kind of helped use to start building our business. But I still built it from the ground, and I will tell you that everything was really, really good for the first few months. And then I told you I got a phone call about my son.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, we're just fresh, like signing the articles of this company and getting it going and starting to put everything together. And we ordered our equipment and found financing to do everything. And I got a phone call from a principal of my son's school that my son had been beaten pretty bad by his stepfather.
Yeah.
And he lived in another state. I actually, when I got the phone call, I was leaving a huge estimate to begin the start of my business. It was like my first heavy down. I would have walked away with like $35K in my very first job. And I was like, we're going to do this. Well, I ended up having to let it go and go get my son, who was at the time 5 years old. And just started this business, just hired people, got payroll going, doing this thing. And I got stuck in Ohio for a month, going through legal litigation for my son.
Wow.
And of course you can't quit. You're there, and you can't leave. I had a bunch of inner workings, but we did that, and I got custody of him, and I came home. And when I came home, my wife was like, "Hey, we gotta get back to work," And we started going. We started moving forward, and I made a multitude of mistakes. But I kept taking a step every single time, whether I was scared to or not. I took a step, and now a year and a half later, here we are today. And to be honest, for someone like me, it feels like it flew by. Very much so.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Well, you thanks for all that, man. That's I feel a lot of that emotion myself. Hopefully that there's other spray foam contractors out there that can resonate with some of these challenges. Obviously, we don't control what happens in our personal life, and nor do we know how we're going to react. But I'm a firm believer that things happen for us and not to us. And in order for you to be the man that you are today, you've had to go through these challenges. Can you share, is there along the journey of, a lot of horrific things have happened in the course of, I don't know what the span of this was, like 12 months or so, Jacob?
All of this happened within 24 months.
Okay. So within 24 months, can you share with me has there been anything that you can really look back on and share with what kept you going in this? Because obviously you had many, many opportunities just to throw the towel in and say, I can't do life anymore. Obviously, that America struggles with mental health in general. And I come from a lot of mental health, family, like genetic stuff, the way that we're raised as people. What kept you going, man? What kept you motivated on a daily?
My kids.
Yeah.
That's my realest answer, is my children. Those were the ultimate motivator. But it was very, very important that every single day I pushed myself and reminded myself what I'm doing and why I'm doing it. Yeah. Of course, every single person, they have their own paths, they're on their own journeys and their own set of hurdles that they have to go through every single day. I felt during my path that there was no alternative option there, unless some magic fairy was going to come just hook me up with a deal,
a few million in their bank account deal.
Right? But there was no alternative option. I'm looking at 5 kids that I got to put in college, that I got to feed. I got to do this on one income, not 2.
Yeah. And meanwhile,
You know?
you have to give the space for your wife to recover.
Yeah.
I think that's what's
Well,
really important.
another thing too is like my daughter, that's from my wife's first relationship. Her father was killed in a motorcycle accident just a
Yeah.
few months. This is a few months ago,
Mm.
but during all of this process, I've never been in a position where I say, you know what, man, I could just give up and just do this and not worry about it. That doesn't exist.
Yeah.
So whether you're making a leap or a small step or you're making strides, you have to move forward just a little bit. And if, we talked about a work on manifestation, if you, no matter what you do, if you put something out in a good positive way, you will have a positive return.
Of course.
And I believe the turning point for me was the first time I created 2 different small businesses and I got checks and I deposited those checks. And I said, wow, that was me. Everything from front to back, that was me.
Yeah.
And I did it. And nobody helped me. And it's real. Whether you make $5, $500, $5,000, 50 grand. I don't know what's wrong with the program, but it keeps shutting my screen off.
It's all good, man.
I started depositing a check, and then one day I was like, "Oh my God, I can pay rent." Whew, yeah, like I'm almost there.
You're celebrating the small wins. I want to point that out. I think the key takeaway that a lot of us get caught up on is maybe that long goal, right? Mm-hmm. Like where we're like, well, my goal is to be a millionaire, or my goal is to be financial free, or whatever that goal is. But we need to look at the micro piece of that. Like, did you get better today in order to get yourself to that goal? And should we be celebrating? And that's the thing that I'm hearing from you, is that you, I've heard you say, put one step in front of the other. Yep. I grew up with an alcoholic father that went to AA. And I remember like that was kind of the thought process, is like one day at a time. And if you can make it through that one day, we all know that the sun's going to rise the next day, and continually be putting yourself, in that position and that mindset piece. Because I think there's a lot of spray foam contractors going to tune into this, and they're going to think that what we're talking about is hoodoo, voodoo, crazy bullshit. But I've seen it personally work in my life. You've seen it personally work in your life. Whatever you want to call it, spirit, Holy Ghost, energy, vibration, whatever you believe in, it's real, man. It's absolutely real.
Well, and you have to allow your doors to open too. I think from my perspective, it's hard because once you're an entrepreneur at heart, and once you fire that engine up, it never shuts off. Yeah. And I think there's a huge difference between people who work a standard type of life, who work in a regular corporate capacity job, or standard 9 to 5, whatever you want to call it. Yeah. They get to go home and leave work behind them at 5 o'clock, and their brains shut off, and now they're worried about kids or dinner and school and all this. And as an entrepreneur, when you actually fire that engine up, it doesn't shut off. You wake up every single morning feeling like you're running algorithms in your head and you don't know what the answer is. You found the answer, then you woke up and you don't know what it is. Kind of this is always life. And at least in me, I am what you would call analysis paralysis. I'm like the premier analysis paralysis queen. I always evaluate everything because there was so much risk, because I had so many kids. There was so much to lose,
Of course.
And there was one there was one day that made a difference in my life. And it was a friend of mine who went to school for business, who got his master's. He was my best friend, awesome guy. And he looked at me one day, he was like, dude, just do it. Just do it. Like, he goes, I don't even care if it's legal. I don't put some fake business cards together. He goes, put $10 in ads out there and see what it does. And I'm like, no, he's like, do it. Just do it. $10. What's the word? It's a pack of cigarettes, Yeah. And I did it, and it brought me $3,000 in 5 days. And I was like, okay.
10 for 3,000 all day long, right? ATM.
So I put 100 into ads, and then it started showing a return. And I started seeing all the gears, all these little pieces of hardware that I put together for my business. They all started operating and working. And then I just knew it's a matter of critiquing myself to make sure I don't lose it all.
Yeah. Now it's the, how do I continue to keep this momentum?
Yeah. You never get that satisfaction of, oh man, I did it. It's working. Mm-hmm. Now you have the stress. I want to say the stress because it's its own type of art. It really is.
Yeah.
Once it's moving, now you have to keep it fed. And now you got to keep.
And then you're going to reintroduce, or you're going to introduce some other pieces of the puzzle, like things called employees, your money management, your bookkeeping, your finances, your growth strategies, your more rigs. It's one of those things about being an entrepreneur is that life is never going to be monotonous and boring, because every day you wake up with different challenges.
Yep. And it is never the same. Yeah. Never. No, at least even I do something very specific, spray foam. Every single job is different. Every single client is different. Every single application is a little bit different. And I think for someone, like if I could ever speak to someone who was looking at coming into working for themselves in whatever kind of capacity it is, sorry.
That's all good.
You have to you have to kind of love what you do. I have respect for it, because in the self-employment world, you're not going to turn a switch on and tomorrow you're going to have a paycheck.
True.
It doesn't exist.
And
I told you, someone manifest kind of your future, and you've got to put all this energy out in hopes that it's going to have a return, and it will.
Of course.
People who haven't done it yet don't know that.
Yeah, I actually just pushed out a video yesterday on the official Spencer Hart talking about there's seeds we're planting today that you're never going to know when those fruits are going to bloom.
Correct. 1,000%.
That could be tomorrow. That could be a year. It could be 10 years. But every day I wake up and I'm going to plant those seeds because I know eventually I'm going to have some fruits in my labor.
1,000%. Like I said, this is my first time on a podcast, and I'm super interested in doing more. But I would assume there's a lot of people who look at us and they say, well, what's the trick, or what's the key to even building to get where you are right now? I'm not saying someone's necessarily super successful or whatnot, but how did you get where you are today? What's your piece of advice, for someone who works for somebody else?
Yeah.
They want to know. And it's that right there. Every time you make a phone call, I don't care if you make 200 phone calls throughout the week trying to sell a job or trying to find a client, and you get told no every single time. Getting told no is a great thing.
Yep.
And people have to see it that way, because if you don't get told no, you don't become intuitive and find another way to sell. And I never thought of it that way, because when I got into it, I was like, I've never worked in sales a day in my life.
Yeah.
Never. And my friend looked at me and was like, dude, you sell yourself every day. That's what you do. You sell your business, you sell yourself. I'm like, I've never worked in sales. Didn't even know.
One of my first sales coaches, he told me, he goes, every no that you get means you're one step closer to getting a yes. And so it's almost like if you can gamify this, Jacob, us as salespeople, us as entrepreneurs, if you can gamify the sales piece of it, it's like almost like, okay, cool, check. I'm excited because 1 out of 10 are going to buy, or 3 out of 10. So you just got to get those no's out of the way, because there's some yeses that are coming.
Well, and I think it's super important too, especially for someone who is like interested in never doing this, living this type of life. There's a lot about energy. It is, for me, it's never been easy. Okay. but mindset is everything. You know, if you have to be willing to put yourself through just shy of everything to be willing to achieve your goal. You know, and I'll tell you what, me personally, I have been financially bankrupt trying to put a business together, and like the next day was getting ready to sell my rig and start begging family, you know, whatever. And I was like, I'm not asking nobody for money. I'm not asking for no favors, you know?
Yeah.
I woke up the next morning, didn't even have time to brush my teeth, and I had 5 jobs lined up. Hey. You know, something that I had put in my pipeline 5 months ago.
Yeah.
Totally forgot about, you know? And me personally, I say it's the Lord, but, you know, it was put immediately back in front of me when I needed it at that present point in time, just as it was supposed to be so. You know? Had I not taken that half an hour to go do an estimate 6 months ago, it never would have happened.
True.
You know?
And that's we just talked about. You planted that 6 months ago. And then when you absolutely needed it, you're like at you're rock bottom.
Yep.
It comes through.
Correct. And then you know, okay, I gotta get more. You know, I gotta get more. Not about money, but like, you know, it feels good. Then you do the job, then you get paid for it, and you actually completed something for yourself. And unfortunately, a lot of people want that feeling and are afraid to tackle it. But once you actually achieve that end result and you completed that job and you move to the next one,
addiction.
You know it's possible.
It becomes an addiction, bro. Trust me. Everybody that's in sales, we talk about this often. I've been doing sales now for 2 decades, and it's an addiction, dude. When you land that job, like you just told me today, you set yourself up with some, you know, like what, 3 or 4 jobs today that you landed.
Right.
That is the most freaking successful thing, especially when you're a business owner, because you know 100% of that money is going back to you and your family, and not to some like, you know, CEO executive that's going to be cutting you a measly piece of that check.
Yep. I think it's also too, like, you know, I'm by far no business specialist by any means.
Yeah.
But I believe it's super important to know, first of all, you have to know your value. Okay. But also know your place. You know, I think anybody who's ever thought about getting into business for themselves, they need to accept the very first rule of this, and that's that you're not going to be perfect at everything, and you're going to have to diversify to grow.
Yeah.
And that was a heavy hitter for me because I was very arrogant and thought that I could do this myself. I could pay a couple of guys to spray the gun, blah, blah, blah. It was very wrong.
Sit on the couch at the house, collect a check.
Yeah, you know. And I have a passion for doing the things that I do. I hate it. I hated, you know, say prior, I hated the office life, but I didn't understand it, you know. Until I worked it. I worked it, understood it. You know, I have no history with business. I have no degree in anything to do with business or finances or engineering or anything, you know. And I wouldn't need it again to start a different business. You know, and that's what's really important is once you learn, man, I wish this thing would stop shutting off. I can't. I have to literally hold my hand on the mouse and keep moving it. I think it's super important that I lost track.
You're talking about it. Yeah, I totally spaced where you're at as well, but you're talking about just the importance of business. And
oh yeah, I think people are intimidated that you have to be good in business, or you have to have a lot of high overhead, or you have to have a lot of capital, you have to have great credit, you have to. No, you don't. You just got to take a step.
Yeah,
I don't care.
It's the risk.
If it's I'm sorry, what?
It's the risk.
Yeah.
You have to take a risk, which I think there's risks no matter what we do. It's just if we're risking it for ourselves or are we risking it for somebody else? I mean, people have been pre-programmed to wake up every day, well, I guess 5 days a week, go punch a clock, do this for 65 years of their life.
Yep.
Which is now actually I've seen recently said that now the retirement age is like something like 73 instead of 65. And it's totally unreal to me. The crazy thing, Jacob, I don't know if you've ever done this before. I did this with my kids, and this is where things put it into perspective. So my mother, she passed away a few years ago, and I was talking to my daughters because she was 68 or 69. So she'd only been retired like, 4 or 5 years. Mm-hmm. And I had said to my daughters, I said, yeah, can you imagine? Because they're 13, but they think that their dad that's 46 is like so old. They're like, oh my God, Dad, you're like ancient. And I'm like, I'm just getting started in my life. And I told them I have a goal of retiring within the next 5 years. And they're like, oh, that's cool. And I'm like, can you think about grandma when she retired of like her age, that some people retire and then you have maybe a good 10 to 20 years left of their life before they pass away. And it absolutely blew my daughters' minds to think that that's the way society is set up. And to me, I feel like, yeah, we're risking things on a daily to be entrepreneur and business owners. But what's the flip side of that? Is like selling your life to corporate America for a measly paycheck that you have no way of actually getting out of for that freedom. I know your company's called Freedom Foam, right? And part of that, I think you and I chatted about, was what's freedom? I mean, obviously your company, I think, is based around the freedom piece of, America. I see the stars and things of that nature, but I think there maybe is an underlying piece there of freedom, which is, I know if I set myself up and I work my ass off for the next 5 to 8 years, I can have the freedom to where my wife and I can travel. You guys live on a farm. You guys have like these goals, right? Of like what it looks like to not have to go to work.
Yep.
Because I know for a fact, I know personally, I am a workaholic, dude, but I can tell you, if I had a whole bunch of zeros on my bank account, you and I wouldn't be talking, right? We would
not about this conversation.
I would be doing a lot of passion projects, things that I want to do on a daily basis. I wouldn't be running companies. I'd be on a beach vacationing, enjoying my life, traveling the world, enjoying those things, creating memories with my kiddos. And so, yeah, I mean, there is risk, but that risk is, for me, there's a reward there.
Yes. Well, and I think naturally all human beings always have to be working towards something, whether it's large or small. They always got to be bettering themselves, and at least I know, me personally, when I become stagnant in my life, I would get very uneasy. I always have to be moving forward. Doesn't matter what it is.
When I say I want to retire, I think you and I are on the same page. Me retiring isn't me like going and golfing on a daily basis or sitting on a couch rotting. For me, like, retirement is doing the things that I want to do, not because I have to do.
Yep. You're able to do them without restraint.
Correct.
Without jeopardizing this week's rent payment.
Yeah. I'm going to pay mortgage this month if I do X, Y, or Z. So I need to do X, Y, or Z in order for me to pay my bills.
Spencer, I have always grown up thinking that something was broken inside of me. My entire life, I always wondered, what do I want to do with my life?
Yeah.
I have been through 10 careers. Literally, I have been a CNA. I've been a paramedic. I've been a police officer. I've been a correctional officer. I have been a wildland firefighter. I've done underwater construction. I've done crazy stuff.
Yeah.
And still to this day, I still don't know what I want to do with myself.
What do you want to be when you grow up, right? And you're still figuring that out.
Yep. And I know that the one thing that makes me feel great is doing good by my babies. whether it's little or it's a lot. Doing good by my friends, doing good by my community, you know. And once I got into employment and I got about a year down and I started having employees and started having the responsibility of their paying their insurance. And, you know, right now times are hard. It's very important that these people are able to survive, you know. Yeah. I started realizing that there's a higher responsibility, that when you can mentally manage it, you know, and you start taking care of other people, you know, other employees, you got to make sure they're taking care of their family. You got to make sure that you're giving them the ability to take care of their family if they're a good employee, you know, and they're willing to work for it. And I think that's why I fell in love with what I do now, because I take the responsibility of keeping my guys' work going and keeping them busy, keeping their paychecks rolling. That's important to me. Me personally, I've never been a money motivated individual. I'm not. By nature, I would rather be lazy if I have enough to get by, you know. Yeah. But my guys, they hurt, you know. If we're, you know, if I don't go out there and sell a job, or I don't go out there and hustle during Christmas just like everybody else, my guys don't get to buy presents for their kids. You know, where I live at specifically, there's not a whole lot of employment. You know, so I'm on a mission now where I'm trying to create enough small jobs that I help my community just a little bit and provide employment, so at least a couple more people can take care of their family.
Yeah,
you know.
So, and I think the underlying piece of this, Jacob, that I'm hearing is impact. You now feel like you're in a situation to where you are actually making an impact. And for me, when I'm on my deathbed, I want people to say that I made an impact in their lives. And whatever that fashion is, if that, you know, whatever the matter is that I made that impact. And for you, it's, I know you can look at this as a heavy weight of carrying this weight around on your shoulders that I have to, you know, I have X amount of employees I got to take care of. And it's not just that one employee, it's that employee that has their children, their wife, maybe their relatives that they're supporting as well. And so you become like almost like a tribal leader. I kind of like think of like a native chief, where you're like, okay, these are my people, sure that these people are taken care of. So on a daily basis, if I don't go do my thing, which is selling jobs, it's not affecting just me and my household, but it's affecting all my employees and their household, that's a huge impact, man. And when we do great things, it's the opposite, right? It's the positive impact that we're doing and the jobs that we're providing and the trickle down effect. Because I've seen this with my team members, myself, where they've been able to buy homes because of me. They've been able to buy cars. They've been able to retire their parents. They've been able to, and I'm talking about changing generations, which to me, holy shit, dude. Like, I look at myself as just this like 46-year-old guy that's living out in Washington State, and I'm changing. We have 40 team members now, and I'm changing all of these people's lives, not just the 40, all their relatives. So I don't know if you ever thought about that impact, bro.
You know, I'm starting day by day to feel it more and more. And I feel more of the need to teach the youth around me some of the trades that I have learned through the years, so I can give them at least one tool to survive.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I can't say it's a nasty world because we live in a beautiful place. But it is not an easy world, you know? And one thing I did learn too, Spencer, and I'm sure you felt this as well, there's also comes a time when you realize there are people that can't develop, manifest, maintain, and operate with the kinds of stress levels that we do, or they're not good at decision making, they're not good at anxiety, or whatever you can say.
Yeah,
I think that was humbling for me when I really actually calculate, like my brain understood that there are people that don't understand how to do this, that really can't, or they didn't grow up having all these small little building blocks or these small desires or these motivators to be successful with self-employment or to, rid yourself of, or whatever, I think it all runs hand in hand, but I think it's very important for us, those who do have the capacity to figure these problems out and to have critical thinking skills and to do all these things. If we don't pass that on, we're setting our kids up for failure.
Of course. I'm curious. Let's unpack that a little bit, because I think that's extremely something that's valuable. Did you grow up in a household where mindset and manifestation was a thing?
Yes, absolutely. And this might sound crazy, but I had a Christian mom, Catholic stepfather, self-employed, and my stepdad, he was one of those people, bless his soul, that would rob Peter to pay Paul kind of, things. But I grew up around family who was always having, we worked full time from 6 and 7, 8 years old, remodeling properties. My parents did apartments and stuff. So I was absolutely around people who worked in a self-employment style career, whether real estate, accounting, whatever. And I picked up little pieces along the way, and I would see how they would handle their staff or how their staff would react to the way they handled them, because I've been on both sides. Yeah. And then I would say my mom owned a flower shop in Palm Harbor, and I got to manage it one year.
Your mom was a florist?
Yes. Yep. She owned Palm Harbor Florist, and
my mother spent probably 20 years as a florist, and she was a FTD master florist, and it's a very thankless career. You don't think about some of these things, but sticking your hands in cold buckets of water because you're getting flowers out. And so then you start to have hand issues with arthritis and things of that nature. And you're in cold coolers a lot and you're standing all day long. It's very difficult to.
Every holiday is gone. You're working Christmas. You're working. Yeah. And listen, I was 12 years old selling buckets of roses on the side of the street corners of my parents,
Well, but, I guess the mindset piece is did you have your parents that were saying things like, Dan, all you have to do is just manifest this, or you just have to have a positive mindset? I always joke and kind of say that I grew up in not only a financially poor household, but a mindset poor household.
Yeah.
I was always sold these kind of cliche type of things that you hear, like you can be anything you want to be, but yet you go, oh, really? And you look at your parents, and my parents were, my dad was in the auto parts industry for his whole working life. My mom was a years, and then she ended up becoming a medical assistant later in her life. And I never saw the fruits of them saying you can be anything you want to be, because I'm like, you're stuck in this dead-end job. So I'm curious, did you see success? Did you see the actual mindset and the manifestation actually come to fruition?
I'd say how I got mine. I personally did not like my stepfather, and that's who owned this business that I worked for, the flower shop, accounting firm. And I grew my manifestations and my desires to be me by watching. I grew up knowing how I didn't want to be, what I didn't want my end result to be. I knew exactly how I didn't want to do business, and if I was ever going to work for myself, all the things that I would not do. So I was never in that situation that my parents were in. Okay. So yeah, I grew up with employees who hated my parents, and I saw both sides. But naturally, by heart, I've always been a people person. Like if I could let you go home 20 minutes early or whatever for the day, that was me. I would always pay you for the full hour, I've always been a people person, always wanted to please. It wasn't until I was put in the position where I had to put all those skills together and all those desires and thoughts together that I started manifesting my future, if that's kind of a good response there, for you.
Yeah.
Right now our world's a little bit different. 20 years ago, you could have a one income household and take care of a family and put your kids through school on an honest living, and you could live that American dream. And I don't know about out west, but in Florida, it's like $1 million a year for groceries. It's crazy.
Dude, I spent $300 the other day for basically a week worth of groceries for our house. And I mean, we're not eating filet mignon, trust me.
Right. So my true desires and what put me to where I am today, and I still try to live by this day in and day out, is I'm trying to help my people, my fellow citizens grow around me. Help thy neighbor.
You are helping. Trying is a weak word, and you are helping people, Jacob. I know for a fact because, you told me the impact you're making. And I'm sure that your employees and your team members that are there at Freedom Foam Co. they feel the impact. So you are making a difference. And sometimes it's that those micro celebrations that we're talking about.
Yep. Well, what's great too is I believe when you start to build a team, like me, I'm a very small business. For the first time, I just hired my first sales girl to handle my phones and my desk and to take this responsibility that I have never let somebody else have.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you what, my staff believes in the things that I believe in, and my staff promotes it. So, I don't have to ask my staff, hey guys, you want to donate this Veterans Day to do this, whatever. I don't have to ask them. They're already in the driveway waiting with tools. Come on, boss, let's go.
Yeah.
And that has been, sorry, make me cry. That's been rewarding because it's hard for you to have a group of individuals who share the same values as you. And I say that's super important for anybody doing anything in their life.
But give yourself some credit on that as well, Jacob, because you have set a foundation and you've got these people to buy into your vision. And that's extremely important. Not only that they're obviously great people and they're great humans, but even the greatest human isn't always going to see your vision and be able to have them like, hey, we're bought in. Like, boss asked me to run, 4 miles naked around the block. Like, I'm going to do it because I know Jacob has my back. And that is an amazing place. I feel like once you get to that place, all these months you've been pushing this snowball up the hill, right? And you're like pushing it and it's like so difficult. Now you're at the top of the hill and like the descend. Now that are going, now we're riding, and you have these people that are on board, and you're just going to continue to make sure that those employees that you hire going forward are bought in to the culture. Because if you don't, I've seen this time and time and again, when you get one person that's not bought in and they're like a cancer and they just start eating at everybody else. And you're like, what the hell happened to my company? We had such a good vibe. It's out the window. Oh, that's right. Because we hired Tommy, and that dude, I was kind of questionable when I hired him, but now that he's hired, I see what I've done. And so make sure that that when you are hiring these future team members, that you are 1,000,000% making sure they're bought into Jacob's vision and your culture and who you have.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't know, this might sound crazy, Spencer, but this world moves really fast nowadays.
Dude, I was thinking about this actually this morning in the shower. I was like, how is it that the fires in LA was only like a thing on like within the media for like 3 days? And then next thing you know, we're on to the plane crash in Washington, D.C., tragic accident there. I mean, I am dumbfounded because, like I said, I'm 46 years old. Media growing up as a child, and let's just put the actual media piece of it aside. I'm just talking about catastrophic events, things happening that I couldn't imagine would happen in a year time frame, happen in like this very short period of time, like a month of just catastrophic, horrible things that just, it makes me feel so sad for so many people.
Yes. But you know what? Then there's people like us who have a little bit of extra capability to help guide those and to bring them back up. A lot of people don't have these building blocks that we have. They don't. Even though we've had to earn them and scrape them and read them and sleepless nights and pain and blood and tears and whatever, it's still ultimately up to us.
Yeah.
We are the vision. We are, honestly, this might sound crazy, but I feel like we are the vision of America. What we're doing right now today will impact somebody. We may never know. And you may never have the gratification or the feeling or sensitivity of, man, I made a difference.
Mm-hmm.
But you will. And you did it selflessly, right? This episode today in host, like when you question me, it was so important that even if we help one person, of course, give them one piece of advice that helps live past that one ledge that they're on or that barrier that they're on, it's super, super important, because if we aren't doing that, okay, then nobody is besides our dictators.
Yeah.
And freedom, a very wholesome word. We have to show our appreciation for our freedom and show them that we're thankful for our freedom. It's very important. It's very, very important.
For sure.
And not for nothing, but if you got someone with a bad mindset struggling with a 9-to-5 or kids, and they don't see that beautiful outside world because they're stuck in this whirlwind of all this life stress,
Yeah.
And, sometimes one little tidbit piece of information can be the world of a difference for us. It was for me. Today, this podcast will make a difference in my life because I'm going to learn how to watch and listen to more podcasts, which will better me and my public speakers and stuff like, so on and so forth.
Man, level up. Level up. You're going to get addicted to the podcasts, throughout your day. Maybe with your spraying, you're listening to podcasts, you're leveling up your brain, you're leveling up your business. That's the whole goal of what I want to do for this industry, is really bring people together so people can learn. On that note, let's go ahead and land this plane. I know we've been at this almost an hour, and I know time goes by fast when we're having fun. But do you have one thing that sticks out, like one major mistake or one thing that you might want to share with people? I know you're new to the business, only 14 months in, owning a spray foam company, but is there one thing that sticks out that you could share, like, hey, don't do this, or if you do this, do this?
Yeah, this might sound crazy, but don't take intelligence for don't take intelligence for arrogance. Oh, come on, computer screen, stop closing. This was my second business that I built, and I thought, since I went through it the first time seamlessly, that I could just whip this thing together quickly. And my arrogance and my pretense that I had for how this process was going to go, it didn't come through like that, right? And I lost a lot of money, and I had to basically start over and take that time. Me personally, I'm a super ADHD person, and I rush. I just wanted to build this tool so it could help me survive. And I didn't look at it like a journey. I looked at it like a mission. I got to get from point A to point B. Let's get it now. Wrong.
A sprint, not a marathon.
Yeah. You have to find your pace. And I absolutely tried to grow way too fast. I thought money, if I just put, instead of $100 in marketing, I'm going to put 20K into it, whatever someone's budget may be, thinking that it's just going to, grow. And I was very wrong.
Well, I mean, even if that was true, let's say that was true, I can tell you that's only one part of the business, which is leads. And then when you get a whole bunch of leads, if you don't have the processes in place, guess what's going to happen? Something's going to break. And when that breaks, it's this trickle down, right? Because it's like, okay, oh crap, we're so busy now that I'm now scheduling out so far away that we're losing jobs because we only have one rig. And so now I have to go buy another, you know what I mean? It's like this trickle down. And if you don't think about it, and you grow too quickly, you are going to break things. That is for sure.
Absolutely. And I'd say I've been there, but we'll save that conversation for another day. I have been there. I've had to where I put a deposit down on a second rig. I'm doing this bang.
Yeah.
And I looked at all the responsibilities and liabilities around me, and did I put the right people around me to make this puppy run?
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't. And I chose not to move forward. Come on, screen.
Yeah, that's smart, I think, right? So sometimes I would say sometimes our drive can get in the way of things, of us not actually fully processing through, maybe writing things down, looking at the pros and the cons, and really figuring out, is this the best decision to do for the company, not for Jacob or whatever the other piece of this is. So being a little bit more strategic, take a couple deep breaths, think on things, be a little bit less impulsive can help.
Google something. Yeah. I think it's so important to embrace it. Whether you're building a business or you're building a baby, you have to learn to embrace it, for the great parts, for the bad parts, and everything in between. It is so important.
I think that's an amazing place to end. Jacob, are you on any of the socials, TikTok, Instagram? Where can they find you at?
I am on Facebook, Freedom Foam Company, and I am also on Instagram. What that one is, I don't know.
What do you mean? You don't share Instagram?
I'm it's like a mix of personal and business.
Gotcha.
I'm still learning.
Yeah, of course. I just want to make sure that people, if they want to connect with you, I know that there's a lot of OG foamers out there that love to be in, it's always good to have somebody that's an OG in your back pocket. And I know this community because even in the short period of time that I've been connected with the spray foam community, there's a lot of amazing people out there that want to help others. And I know there's tons of people that would love to connect, just in case you had an issue. Maybe they're local down in Florida, maybe they're not, but to be able to connect after this episode, I think is amazing. So make sure you guys follow Jacob, Freedom Foam Co. on Facebook, on Instagram. And Jacob, I really appreciate your story. Is there any final thoughts you have?
I just want them to know that, like, anybody that wants to take that leap and check it out or wants to get engaged, whether it's specifically in the spray foam industry, installation, or just in general learning about business, I am open arms, and I would prefer to spend my time helping someone avoid catastrophes.
Yeah, because we know there's plenty out there. There's like mines
I think that the world is moving so fast now that if you have a team of people who are willing to offer true great knowledge and life experience, it would help y'all. And I am open, whether it's personal on Facebook or through my business. I don't care what time of the day or night it is. If we can help y'all make your day better in any type of way, especially if you're a veteran or a hero or you've served our community, like anything that we can do, anything, and we're all a family, whether we see it that way or not. We are all a family here. We're all trying to live the American dream. Might as well help each other.
Love it. Yeah. Love it, Mike. We're all on this journey together, and if we can get a little helping hand, that's always great. So, hey, thanks everybody for tuning in to the Foam to Fortune podcast. Jacob, it was great to have you on. I appreciate it. Have a good rest of your day.
Till next time, Spencer. Thank you so much, guys.
Here, brother.